Okay. What did he say?
Welcome, everybody. Did y'all miss me? I'm honored to run the meeting today. Stacy is away, so let's start by saying our defining statement. It's up on the board for those who don't know it. Kiwanis is a global organization of volunteers dedicated to improving the world, one child and one community at a time. We'll say our pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all. Clay, do we have a song today?
We certainly do, and it's going to be a repeat. I'm going to teach you this song yet. On page 15, America the Beautiful, song 33. You ready?
Yeah.
And we'll start with the pitch of, oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of rain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crowned thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Much better. Thank you.
Thank you, Clay. Bob Goodale has our invocation today. Bob?
Let's pray. We offer this prayer together with all the holy names of God, knowing you are listening far better than we are speaking. We see your children growing up in an unsteady and confusing world. Show them and help us remember that your ways give more life than the ways of the world, and that following you is far better than chasing after selfish goals. Help them and help us to remember to take failure not as a measure of worth, but as a chance for a new start. Give all of us strength to hold our faith in you and to keep alive our joy in your creation. Amen.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, do we have guests today? Tarver has a guest. Can somebody get a, thank you, Cricket.
This is Tarver's daughter, Ashley.
Ashley, welcome. Anybody else have a guest today? Okay, if there are no other guests, let's talk about membership welfare. Very happy to see Tarver back today. Thank you. If everyone could keep April Blackwell in their thoughts and prayers today, her father's funeral is today. So reach out to her if you can. Are there any other membership welfare? Do you?
Yes, I got a question from one of our Zoom guys here about if anybody has heard from Bob Brooks.
Has anybody heard from Bob Brooks lately? He is? Thank you. Do you know where, Johnny? No. Okay, all right, great, thanks. Anything else for membership welfare today? Great. Just a few announcements. We're going to start a 50-50 raffle next week. So if you want to participate, bring a $5 bill or 5 ones, and you can put your name in the pot, and whoever is drawn after 2 weeks will win half of the money. So be prepared for that. We'll be collecting prior to the meeting and right after as well. Thanks Robert Cooper and Robbie Wooten for volunteering to do the Salvation Army next week. We'll be looking for 2 volunteers for September as well. Pancake breakfast, October 21st. Please mark your calendars. Cricket, or is Cricket still back there? Well, Cricket's there, Courtney's there. Do you still have any tickets left? Okay, all right, so Gwen will have tickets here next week. We'd love for you to pick those up, please. And Francis, do you want to talk about sponsorships?
As everybody knows, we rely on you for the pancake breakfast support, both by selling your tickets, and then a lot of you have stepped up in the past to be sponsors. And so we're starting our sponsorship drive. So if you sponsored in the past, please expect to be called or contacted. I have a few of these sponsorship forms. I put a few on the table. There are a few up here. And we're just really looking forward to pulling ourselves together and having another terrific event. Thank you.
Thanks, Francis. Also, if anybody has ideas or donations for our raffle for the pancake breakfast, please talk to Meredith. Meredith, you want to wave? You're doing the raffle, right? Yeah. Anybody? Okay, excellent. Also for the pancake breakfast, I do need a volunteer to head up the cleanup committee. So if anybody's interested in doing that, please see me. And there are sign-up sheets for volunteers on all the tables. So please sign up. Any other announcements? Anything I've left out? Well, if not, I'll turn it over to Johnny Alexander to introduce our speaker for the day.
I'm going to be introducing David a little bit, but I've talked to him a little bit, and I've told him about some of my experiences with some bluegrass and stuff. The convention comes here, and it's been coming here for years, and it's been a great success. And my wife and I decided we'd try it out, and going down there at nighttime, and they have these little mini concerts all during the course of the early part of the week. And they start at about 6 o'clock, and they go to about 1 o'clock or something like that. So we did that for a while, then had to drive home. Then we decided, why don't we just get ourselves one of the motel rooms? Well, that's an okay thing. But in the Marriott, they have jamming floors and non-jamming floors. We did not know that. And so we got put on a jamming floor. So you go out there and you go to these different venues. Some of them serve alcohol, some of them do not. That's why the reason I'm here is because Buck Lattimore and I met at some of these things, believe it or not, at the places that served alcohol. We didn't meet in the churches. And so we got on this jamming floor, but they, don't worry, they shut it down sometime between 5 and 8 a.m. I'm not sure exactly when it is. But one of the things I found is this is just a great bunch of people. I had opportunities to talk to Del Curry, who's a big man in bluegrass. And when I was in the legislature and I talked to him, I said, it's a great thing for North Carolina. It's a great thing for Raleigh. And we appreciate your being here. And most any of the performers were saying they like coming to Raleigh. That Raleigh treated them a lot better than Nashville did. And it seemed to be a relationship that everybody wanted to continue. And I said, Dale, if anything ever goes sideways, please let me know. I never heard from him. I think things continue to go well. And I would encourage you to go to this. I mean, we ran into some people that from Japan, they were from Colorado. They come here and they drive and they stay in these no-tell motels. They stay in campgrounds. They do whatever they can. These are not a rich bunch of people. And one of the things, I'll say one last thing, but then I'll introduce it. When I was in the legislature, sometimes these different people would come by, and the bluegrass people came by with a lot of the other people of the arts. And one thing that distinguished the arts people, particularly the bluegrass people, was they said, thank you for the monies that we had in the budget for them. Many other organizations that are built so entitled, we don't get the thank yous, but we got the thank you from the arts and particularly the bluegrass people. Okay, David, by the way, now it's his turn, my turn. David Brower grew up in the Piedmont with a deep love for traditional music of the region. He was drawn to the authentic voices of old-time bluegrass and folk music, played by everyday people. A desire to share that music led him to a career in public radio, where he worked as a host, music director, NPR contributor, and most recently as program director for North Carolina Public Radio, WUNC. He was named Executive Director of the PineCone in October 2019 and is a member of IBMA's Leadership Bluegrass class of 2020. He loves fiddle tunes, good coffee, college basketball, and his family is remarkably tolerant of banjo jokes. And I'm told that if you were a better musician, you'd be playing 6 strings instead of just 5 on the banjo.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Again, my name is David Brower. I am currently the Executive Director of PineCone. We are the Piedmont Council of Traditional Music based here in Raleigh. Our home is at the Martin Marietta Center for the Performing Arts. Our offices are actually directly underneath Raleigh Memorial Auditorium. And I admire John for attending IBMA for the first time and for wandering onto the jam floor, because they do play all night long. And it's usually, these days, we've trained the hotel staff to ask folks as they're making reservations if you want a jamming floor or a non-jamming floor, and they're not kidding when they do say they stay up all night, because it's like an old family reunion. Folks come together, and playing music is the way that that they relate to one another. So it's much like sharing a meal, or how other people get together, play bridge, or other board games, or play pickleball these days. The folks in our community get together and share tunes, which is an awful lot of fun. But let me tell you about what PineCone is up to, and then I'd like to share a little bit about the festival, which is coming up, and your opportunities to get involved with it. PineCone is the Piedmont Council of Traditional Music. It was founded by a group of friends here in Raleigh. Wayne and Margaret Martin, Ron Raxter, and others got together back in 1984 because they wanted to bring the traditional music, the string band-based music, down to Raleigh that they enjoyed. And a lot of it was out of self-interest, in that they enjoyed playing it, they enjoyed the communal dances, the square dancing, clogging that goes along with it, and they wanted it closer to home. And at the time that they were forming PineCone, they spent a good bit of time reaching out to city elders, looking for opportunities to present bluegrass and old time music, and we're talking banjo fiddle tunes. Looking for opportunities to present it as a part of the cultural landscape in the city. And I was told that city officials couldn't run away fast enough. There was a sense that culture was something that was coming from somewhere else. It was largely European based. It was from the Northeast. It involved, classical music or the ballet or the opera, all of which are fantastic assets in this community. But it sort of still gives me chills when I hear that end of the story, that idea that they wanted their anchor to be in the arts that came from, that thrived in Europe and moved over to America. And now we're fully embracing music that is deeply, deeply rooted in the Piedmont of North Carolina and in the entire state of North Carolina. So that's what we do. PineCone is an organization. We're 501c3. We're here to present, preserve, and promote traditional music. We're also a resident company at the Martin Marietta Center. So to speak to how what a great community that we're in, PineCone presents bluegrass and old time music and folk music as a resident company. The other resident companies are the North Carolina Symphony, the Carolina Ballet, the North Carolina Opera, the North Carolina Theater Company. So we're in really great company, and I think it says just a beautiful thing about the community that we share, that those are the traditions, those are the performing arts that we collectively celebrate. When we talk about traditional music, we're primarily thinking of bluegrass, old time, which those two genres are string band based, so primarily fiddle led, banjo, mandolin, guitar, bass. Old time is the music that preceded bluegrass. Old time music is primarily played for dances, so it's tune based, generally instrumental. There's a lot of songs that do go along with old time music, but generally it's played for dances. Like tonight at the Transfer Co. Food Hall, PineCone is hosting a square dance, and we'll have a live string band playing and a live caller who will call the communal dances. Bluegrass came out of that tradition and turned into a performance genre, in where there are leads, there are stars, it's more song-based, and there's a lot more showmanship. With old-time music, oftentimes the musicians are in the background, and the dancing, the communal aspect is first and foremost, is out front. We also work with gospel music, traditional gospel music, both in the string band tradition and from the Black church, and then blues, which is also deeply rooted here in the Piedmont. Again, primarily, in terms of a presenter, our two largest endeavors are a down-home concert series that we present at the various theaters in the Martin Marietta Center, and then IBMA Bluegrass Live, which we are now in our 11th year presenting, and we're very excited to be coming back to downtown Raleigh the last week in September. We also do participatory work. So we host regular jam sessions. There's a youth jam that's happening tomorrow in Cary, where the kids that are involved, normally it's like early teenagers who get together and want to play tunes. We have a leader who helps them through it. But then we also have a couple of other led jams, facilitated jams, where there's a leader that we hire who helps people find a place in the circle to play tunes together. We do a couple of youth camps as well. This year we held them in Cary. They're about helping kids learn how to play bluegrass. We get a lot of fiddle players who grew up or playing, going to Suzuki lessons, playing in orchestras in their middle and high school, and we help them find a different way to express themselves with stringed instruments. So we help them figure out how to play together, how to improvise more. And we just had a really terrific series of camps, and it's so much fun to see kids come together, and they, that middle teen time frame in a kid's life is sort of our sweet spot, especially for the jam camp that we have in July. So they come in sort of somewhat awkward and trying to figure out ways in which to relate to one another, lugging along a banjo or a fiddle or guitar. And one kid, like 2 weeks ago with our camp, came in and with a mandolin, and I talked to him the first day. His name is Joshua. And he said, "Oh yeah, I've been watching YouTube videos for the past 6 or 7 weeks about mandolin. I wanted to play." And it's like, okay, this is going to be interesting. But by the end of the week, like, you look over and you see him, and he's like chopping away on chords. And at one point, he's like closing his eyes and just like waving around and doing this whole like groove thing. And it's just like so incredibly gratifying to see kids and connect with the music, and the music that we love, and music that we believe is accessible. One thing I will say about the music that we work with is that at its core, it's folk music. And this old singer named Big Bill Brunzi used to define folk music by saying, I guess all songs is folk songs because I've never seen a cow sing one. So, and that says, it does say something, because the idea is that anybody can play it. It is accessible. If you can figure out how to play a couple of chords, or even a root note in the chord, one note that's the right note in the tune, you can probably find a place to land, and that you'll be able to make music with your friends and neighbors. And so that is a big part of what we do. Of course, we bring in world-class musicians like Del McCoury, who was just mentioned, who's playing this September as a part of our festival. Really incredible musicians who could excel in any form. But the neat thing, I think, is that there is this base level of musicianship where you can play, you can get together with friends. It's not a performance setting, it's a communal setting. And that's I personally fall into that category. I play fiddle tunes with friends and a little bit of banjo, but primarily fiddle. And I like to say, like, I play fiddle tunes like other people play poker or, you know, play pickleball. It's not meant to, you're not meant to have somebody come and watch you play. It's really just a way of connecting with friends. And so part of the thing that we do to preserve the music and keep the music alive is we create opportunities for people to learn more about the craft that they're exploring. And what's really fun is that we do work with kids, but then we also see a lot of folks who are post-retirement and are looking for ways in which to, you know, re-engage with a part of their personhood. And so they turn back to that guitar, or that banjo, or that fiddle that's been sitting in the closet for 40 years while they're working and supporting their family. And so we put up a series of instructional videos. We have in-person workshops. Next week, we've got a really good workshop at clawhammer banjo workshop that we're hosting at Harry's Guitar Shop. To talk about the nuts and bolts of things, because I know a lot of you folks work in business. PineCone as an organization, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We are funded, we do receive public funds, and we are very grateful for the support that we receive. If there are any members of council, I don't see any members of council, mayor or council in the room, but if you interact with folks on the city council or the mayor, please make sure you thank them for their support of the performing arts, because Raleigh is is an incredible place to be. Raleigh and WUNC County is an incredible place to be because there is really, really strong support for the performing arts and arts for all, and arts that's accessible to all. And we're very grateful for that support, and especially coming out of the pandemic, the city of Raleigh funded all of its arts nonprofits and all of its nonprofits in general at the same level throughout the duration of the pandemic, which not a lot of communities did. I mean, when you're unable to provide services, unable to bring people together for a shared cultural experience like PineCone does, the city of Raleigh decided to stick by their cultural institutions and believe that the organizations are part of the arts infrastructure and that they should be maintained despite the fact that they're not able to gather together. And as a result of which, symphony's back, the ballet's back, the theater's back, PineCone's back, our festival is back. And so if you interact at all with folks on your council, please make sure to say thank you to them. So we receive money from the city of Raleigh through a grant program they've got that is based on the recommendation of the Raleigh Arts Council. We also receive money from the State Arts Council, which is a division of the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. We're not a line item in the budget, it's discretionary funding, but funding for the arts does funnel through the legislature to the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. We do accept contributions and receive grants from family foundations and private foundations, and then individual members as well. And then we do host also some ticketed events and revenue generating events. We have a scholarship program for our camps, but folks who can also pay a fee to be a part of our camps. I do want to take a minute to talk about the festival because that's the next thing that's coming up around the corner. It is I think one of the best examples of a public-private partnership that is going on today. When folks in the city of Raleigh reached out to the people in Nashville who are in the leadership at the International Bluegrass Music Association and started pitching that they move their event from Nashville to Raleigh, one of their big piece about the pitch that they gave to the folks in Nashville was that Raleigh is a supportive community. PineCone brought hundreds of volunteers to the table to help make the event possible. The city brought an infrastructure and world-class facilities to support the event. But really, I think part of what sold them at the time to move the event here and has kept the event strong is what is a local organizing committee, which is built up with folks from across organizations in the city to put on the event and be a local partner with the event. That is a model that the city has successfully used for other large signature events. Most recently, it was used for the Stadium Series, the Canes outdoor hockey game. It was originally, I believe it was originally set up for the NHL All-Star game, but other large events that involve all aspects of the community have this local organizing committee. For the Bluegrass event, there are 3 chairs to it. I'm one of them, a colleague at the Raleigh Convention Center, and then a colleague at the Greater Raleigh Convention and Visitors Bureau lead up this citywide group that supports the event. It has worked. On a good year, it generates an estimated $16 million in direct economic impact, and our high watermark draw is a crowd of upwards of 200,000 people all across the streets of downtown Raleigh. It is, of course, weather dependent. If you came out and joined us last year or tried to join us last year, Hurricane Ian had something else to say about our holding the event or our holding the event as planned. The hurricane last year hit like Friday at 1 o'clock. Our festival was supposed to start at noon. And as a test, I mean, it was supremely disappointing. I came to PineCone, started PineCone, worked this job because I wanted to be a part of a group that created shared experiences so that people could come together around culture and come together around the performing arts. I was really excited coming into the job. My first full-time day on the job after leaving WUNC was March 1st, 2020. So I came, had about 3, maybe 2.5 weeks of like excitement. This is gonna be really terrific. We're gonna be putting on concerts, they're doing the festival, doing workshops, having jam sessions, and then, COVID tossed everything off the table. For me personally, last year was our first chance post-pandemic to have another large-scale event. So that was the disappointing news about last year, and why I encourage you to collectively keep your fingers crossed for good weather for this September. But the good news is it was another testament of the tenacity of the city of Raleigh and the people of Raleigh. Everything we planned for the event was held despite the hurricane. We moved the entire thing into the Raleigh Convention Center. And I challenge you to find another community, another major city, capital city, top 25 market, who presented with the prospect of, hey, we've got this really great Bluegrass festival where we sell beer and people stay up really late playing fiddles and banjos. We've got it going on in the street. What do you say we move it inside to your 500,000 square foot state-of-the-art convention center? In Raleigh, they're like, sure, let's do it. And so we moved the entire event into the convention center. Had a great time. It was a much smaller audience. I think we had 20,000 folks last year, whereas we had 150,000 the year before. But it really, to me, it's like when we talk about the festival, we like to say that it's one that's built to survive. It's survived two hurricanes, survived the pandemic, survived the post-pandemic time when we were having, proof of vaccination requirements for that first year back. It's built to stay. So we look forward to this coming September. If you'd like to be involved, we certainly invite you to come out and be a part of it. Most of the event is free. There are reserved seats in the Red Hat Amphitheater that are for sale, but pretty much, 90% of the activities you can come with your family and enjoy for free. There are volunteer opportunities if you'd like to participate. We've got opportunities to be a part of the business conference, which is the trade show for professional bluegrass industry officials and workers from around the world. They come in the week before, and if you want to be a part of that, there's ways to volunteer. And I do also want to point out, there's one other thing that we've got coming up that I think makes us unique, in that we provide sighted guide services for blind and low vision folks who want to come to the festival and enjoy the festival. And we've got a training session that's happening in 2 weeks. So if you or somebody you know would like to be trained up on how to volunteer as a sighted guide and assist somebody navigating their way through the festival who is blind or low vision, please join us. Or, conversely, if you have anybody in your family or community who happens to be blind or low vision, we would love to work with them. We get a lot we generally have more volunteers to be trained as guides than we do have folks who are seeking services. So even if you've got somebody in your family who's, completely independent and happens to fall in the blind and low vision world, we'd love to get their help in giving our folks some experience serving as guides and trying to make the festival as accessible as possible. But that's what I've got. If there are questions or concerns, I'd be happy to address them. Anything about Bluegrass, banjo jokes, festival? Yes, sir.
Has Nashville tried to get you back?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the festival is we are on a 3-year contract between the city, PineCone, and the IBMA. Right now, we are in the 2nd year of our current, this upcoming event is the second in that 3-year cycle. So we're currently in negotiations with all parties to try and keep the event here. And we have every intent on wanting to be here, but like a lot of conventions and conferences, this one has stayed, which is a little unique in terms of trade associations, and we hope to keep it, but there's a lot of great places around the country. Yes, sir. I can hear you fine. Mm-hmm.
Can you expand on that?
The basic, I'm sorry, the basis of the music, or?
No, that a lot of bluegrass, a lot of gospel has roots deeper in Appalachia.
Yes.
Because those people were so isolated. They were playing music that wasn't written down, just passed on from person to person, the father to son to grandson, etc. Do you get into that in PineCone?
100%, absolutely we do. And that's the thing that the part that we play, that was, it was very much prevalent in the Appalachian region. The Piedmont region has a unique string band tradition as well, that folks like Charlie Poole, who's a great songwriter, and Joe Thompson, great African-American. He and his cousin Odell were a really great banjo fiddle duo. So the banjo fiddle stuff was happening in this part of the region. But one of the things that we get is the music migrated with the people. So a lot of folks from those isolated communities came down to places like what we now know as the Triangle for work.
And it evolved, but
yeah,
a comparison, the Southern Highland Guild started to preserve the crafts of those people with little cedar flowers and instruments and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It has changed over time. That doesn't look anything like that now. So there's a risk of losing a lot of that.
Yeah, that enters into a bit of a sticky wicket there, because we by our charter really want to see this as a living tradition, and so we're very interested in the free exchange of the music and how it evolves. We're not.
It continues to evolve.
Oh, absolutely, and we're not, which distinguishes us from the preservationists and the archivists who work at the fine academic institutions that are in our community. We're really all about empowering people to get to sit down together and play. And I'd love it if they play old time fiddle tunes that originated from the Appalachian region and migrated down here when folks came down to work in the textile mills of the Piedmont. But truth be told, those are things evolve, and really what we're trying to preserve is that sense of joy and community that comes when people share something together.
Preservation and evolution seem to be on opposite ends at times.
They can be, but I think if you look at preserving, part of the goal of preserving is to preserve the opportunity for joy that comes with playing music together. And if that's at the core, like in the backwoods and the isolated hollers of, of Western North Carolina, when people got together to play, yes, they were totally isolated until radio came in. So a lot of those tunes, with Scotch-Irish origins, were perfectly preserved until radio came in and, the medicine shows started coming through town and things started changing. But what hasn't changed is that families and friends and, neighbors come together and play music.
You don't want to lose the joy that went with that community.
Yeah, and that's really what we're about. And we do try and keep a piece of the preservationist work together and the purity of the music. But to be honest with you, we try and be a little looser about it, for better or for worse. Yes, sir.
Hey, what would be a good example of a fiddle tune?
I mean, you might know like Old Joe Clark, Soldier's Joy, Fly Around My Pretty Little Miss.
No, like top 50 fiddle tunes of all time.
Those are in the top 50.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, well,
Yeah. Angeline the Baker is a good one. I'm not much of a singer, but.
So we have another question over here, but before he talks, I wanted to tell you that I started going to the IBMA Music Festival with a group that comes up from Atlanta.
All right.
And so in talking to them about why they did this, one of them said, I went to a Bluegrass festival about 5 years ago, and at the end of it, I realized I had more fun there than I've ever had in my whole life. And so he just started going to all these different opportunities for a festival as part of his life and just to find that joy. So even people who don't play music can enjoy it. Okay.
I can tell you one thing. When I was interviewing for this job, it was actually during the festival, and I was like, do I want to do this? And so one of the things that I did is I walked the festival footprint and talked to the police officers and just said, hey, what do you think? Like, how's your day going? And to a T, the police officers said something to the effect of, oh, man, this is our favorite event. People come down, grandma, grandpa, grandsons, they sip on their beers and sing about mama. So it's like, we're good. So it was like, okay, I get it. Yes, sir.
Your youth camps.
Yes.
So is there a fee charge for the youth to attend the camps? If so, do you have any information or as to whether there are children that want to attend your camps that can't afford camp fees? And do you have anything like scholarships for children in need? Thank you.
That's an excellent question. Yes, there is a fee. We partner with the town of Cary, and so we run the program through their Parks and Rec program. So it's just like one of their regular camps. To my knowledge, we have never turned away a kid or a family for financial reasons. We figure out a way, and we are trying to build that out more and find and sort of diversify the instruments that are represented. So finding more opportunities to give instruments to kids who will play them. We're launching a new initiative this year that's going to be aimed. That's more like elementary, early, middle school kids. We're launching a new initiative this year that's funded by Family Foundation. That's going to be where we're going to send a banjo and a fiddle player into middle and high school strings programs to see what happens. They're going to do demonstrations saying, so the idea is to get with kids who have a certain level of musical ability, show them that they can do something else with the strings strung across that box. And we hope that will lead to a point where we have kids who need instruments. Because, the funny thing is, I found that instruments are really easy to acquire. The hardest thing to acquire is a kid who has both the desire and the support at home that is required to practice and keep playing. But yeah, we do have a number of members and donors who actually contribute directly because they want to sponsor a kid for the summer camp program. But yeah, we try not to turn anybody away.
I have enjoyed going to the festival in years past, and my kids would go, and we've just always had a great time. We are listeners, not jammers. We are not musically talented, but we enjoy it regardless. And as I watched the lineup that you posted in your presentation, it made me just wonder about how you selected bands. And I wondered if you could comment on that process. Of course, everyone loves, when Steve Martin and the Steep Canyon Rangers play. I realize someone like him probably can't come every year. Right. But I'm curious just about that process.
Yeah, I'm in charge of booking the whole festival, so that's a part of my job. So I book, this year it'll probably be 110 to 125 or so artists, which is about 600 musicians or so, maybe 800. We book it in different tiers. The folks that are up on the poster here are the headliners, and our desire there is to put together a lineup that represents where bluegrass is today, that also will be able to sell about 3,000 tickets. We changed our model for the festival such that half of the Red Hat Amphitheater is free admission. So the front 3 sections we sell as reserve seats only, and we open up the back just as a part of the street festival. So if you want to, with the best seat in the house, and you want to make sure you've got a place to sit, folks buy a ticket. And so there is, it's a bit of a challenge to find commercially viable artists who can sell that many tickets, but also artists who are say something about where the genre is today. We've got a pretty good lineup here. Del McCoury is a Hall of Famer. Molly Tuttle, if you've never heard her, she's very easily one of the best flat picking guitar players playing today. She's phenomenal. Her band is great. The Kruger brothers are really a neat story. They're European immigrants who moved here because they heard some scratchy records by a guy named Doc Watson, and they moved to Western North Carolina, bought a farm just down the street from Doc Watson, and started studying with him. These guys actually, they're brothers. They actually learned a lot of their English by singing along with Doc Watson records. So it's going to be a good show. But there are a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and there are a lot of interests that we have to meet. I mean, we do take our responsibility very seriously, because it is the IBMA is the professional organization that represents the bluegrass industry. Therefore, the music that we present needs to represent where the music is, where it's been, where it's going. Likewise, though, we also want to pay attention to make sure that the music and the musicians that are on stage represent the wonderful diversity that is here in Wake County, and that everyone feels welcome, everybody sees himself represented on stage. So it's a bit of a balancing act.
Pat, is there a difference in bluegrass music style based on different parts of the country or different countries? Would Japanese bluegrass be different from Tennessee bluegrass versus Louisiana versus North Carolina?
For sure, yeah. This year we'll get to find out a brand new wing of it, because the IBMA has a scholarship program for an international band where they sponsor a band and work with them on visas to come over. And this year there's a Korean band that's coming over. Country Gongbang is the band. They're young, they're like 20 something. They're really good. They sing primarily in Korean, but they do a lot of straight up bluegrass standards as well. But yeah, absolutely. There's a whole Colorado scene and the Rocky Mountain region that play bluegrass. It is different. Molly Tuttle is a Californian who grew up in California, native, grew up, going to festivals out there. The further west you get, somebody might get mad at me for saying this, but between us, the further west you get, the longer the songs get. So like Colorado, it's not uncommon to have a song get stretched out 12, 15 minutes because the guitar player's got a lot to say, or the mandolin player's got a lot to say. The further, east you get and the more traditional you get, it's closer to gospel, string band, 3-4 minute tunes. But Yeah, you can hear a lot of regionalism.
On your funding slide,
Yes.
I think you listed 6 sources.
Uh-huh.
If it were a pie chart, what would it look like?
That's a good question. I do this for our board every 2 months. And that actually, before I forget, if anyone is interested, we are recruiting new board members. If anyone is interested in serving in a leadership position or wants to be a part of our organization, we're going to be having some openings in the next 2 years, and we've got a committee who's recruiting board folks. But really good question. It's roughly, I'm going to give you big ballpark numbers. The public funding, grant funding, is about 40% of our income, our revenue. About 30% is revenue generating events, ticket sales, camp registrations, workshop registrations, and then the remaining is individual donors, either through memberships or contributions. But thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, David. We donate a book that we'd love for you to sign to Wake County Schools. So I'll leave this for you. Thank you so much for coming. I think I've been to the festival every single year since it's been in Raleigh. It is a great time. If you guys haven't been, you can just go for a couple of hours, or you can stay all day for 2 solid days. So thank you so much for speaking with us today. Ashley, thanks for coming. We really liked seeing you today. Next week, our own Phil Kirk will be speaking about humorous events in school, in the legislature, with governors. It'll be hilarious. So we look forward to that. And please remember, September 1st, we do not meet in celebration of Labor Day. So go to the beach or something. September 8th, we have Faduma Osman speaking about going from refugee camp to life in America. 50-50 raffle next week. Bring your $5. Thank you to everyone for coming today, and we'll see you in a week.